Real Black Consciousness
Real Black Consciousness Forum.
What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to wear them. So.
Well, a Dallas biotech company is expanding its de-extinction mission.
You heard it right. Colossal Biosciences announced it's acquired Cedar Park-based VJAY Pets and Equine, a luxury animal cloning business, by the way. Colossal, known for claiming to have brought back the dire wolf earlier this year, says VJAY has been the best cloning technology in the world.
The acquisition marks Colossal's first major purchase since launching in 2021. Now, VJAY charges people about $50,000 to clone a cat or dog and $85,000 for a horse. But the company also uses cloning to help preserve endangered species, work that aligns with Colossal's goal of bringing back extinct animals like the woolly mammoth and the dodo bird.
Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back. Beloved, it is indeed your brother Big VJAY checking in. The title to today's podcast is The Master Breeders, right? And we're going to talk about genetics, epigenetics, and the mystery of the speckled flock. And this is a story. This is a metaphor. This is an allegory that can be found, beloved, in Genesis chapter 30, right? So that's going to be today's conversation. And we're going to piggyback a little bit off what we already talked about before with the Adamites and the pre-Adamites, in which we said that Adam, the Adam, was a new man, was a made man, beloved, as a so-called white man. And this is where the mischief makers come from. They are all, beloved, Adamites, right? And we learned that by going through the allegory. Now, we are taught, beloved, that the Jewish biblical text, the one that come out of Britain that you love so much, which is called the King James Version, it is written in signs, symbols, allegories, and a racial allegory as well. So before we even had today's conversation, we got to put this on the table first. Beloved, do you know what an allegory is when we say it on this platform? Do you know what we mean when we say the Jewish biblical text is written in an allegory? Do you even know what that means? Because we say that so often. I just don't want to just be talking and we don't get a good foundation on anything. An allegory, beloved, is this. It's where you take a story, you take characters, you take a setting, you take some events that happen, and you tell it in a fictional kind of way. And you're doing it this way. It has a hidden meaning to it now. It has moral lessons to it. It has real world events connected to it, but it's complex. So what the ancients did was they wrote to their people culturally real world events, but they put it in an allegory because it may be too complex for this particular group of people to handle it like it is. So we can imagine, right? Because this is how the Jew book is written. First, there's a species of beings called the Elohim first. And the Elohim look like the human beings. But if you look at the book of Job, you can see that it says something like the sons of God and the morning stars sung for joy as they were like witnessing planet Earth and the heavens being made. Meaning they predate the heavens and the earth. They had a previous home before the heavens and the earth and the Milky Way was created. So these are advanced, highly intelligent beings. They are not earthlings. You dig? So when you look at the beginning of Genesis and it says God created the heavens and the earth, that term God is really Elohim, and we already talked about how that's a plural word, right? They try to box it in with like a singular verb, but the word is the word. It already has a meaning. They got that word from the Canaanites. So that word Elohim means like divine ones, powerful ones, pantheon, the divine council. Like it's plural. It's like the big boss at the top. And then in this pantheon, you have the big boss at the top. He has a wife, and then he has 70 children, and all of these species of beings are called the Elohim. So in Genesis 1, like we already discussed, it's a incarnation process happening where these Elohims are creating the heavens and the earth, and they're doing it through the power of speech, sound, and vibration, power of the word. And it's an incarnation where man and woman is made simultaneously at the same time. Not one made before the other. No, they made at the same time. Then we get on down to Genesis 2 and we see it's a different kind of man that's made. This is the ruddy man. This is the man that he is made from the poor part of the planet Earth. He's made from the dust of the ground, mean like bottom shelf kind of DNA, bottom shelf genetics, base and waste material. And this man was, we talking Adam, this man was made, and he was made ruddy. That's the pale man. That's the so-called white man. He didn't have no mother. His maker, which is an Elohim named Yahweh, made Eve from Adam's genetics. So Eve don't have no mother. So these are two motherless beings. Is that right? It's what the book teaches us now. This is the Jew giving you his line. And then he gives you a snapshot of the pre-Adamites line, which is the original man and woman. That's us. Black, brown, red, and the yellow seed. So much so that the Jew tells you the original man's diet. That's the man that's found in chapter 1. He was a vegan. He didn't eat no meat. Vegan. Ate fruit, vegetables. And not only did he eat it, the animals ate it as well. Then you get to a Genesis 2 kind of man. You get to the son, they're a shepherd already. Then the other one is a farmer. Then the farmer jump up, he killed the shepherd. You dig what I'm saying? Then you get a new Seth, he's the new shepherd, right? But they're already cutting and killing and eating meat already by the time you did. Now I can go into another concept between that, but that's a different story for a different day. But I'm just showing you, like, on concept now, that Genesis 2 man is a different kind of man. This is the making of the so-called white man, right? Look, we may even have a conversation about this. There's a part where, because we talk an allegory, there's a part in which Yahweh is kind of like talking to Adam, and after he makes Adam, he kind of looking through all the beasts of the field to see if he can find a helper for Adam, but he couldn't. So he made Eve. He put Adam in a trance and he made Eve. Now let's stop. Do you think this intelligent Yahweh Elohim being he was so clueless that he was going to put Adam with a ox or a buffalo or something like that to help him. Did you think that's what was going on when Yahweh was looking at the beast of the field and trying to see if he could find Adam a mate? No. Beloved, one day we may have been going to that on this platform, where the beast of the field is a term used to describe the pre-Adamites, to describe the original man and woman that was already here. See, King James, right? Him and them 47 white boys that did all the translation, when they're looking at the Canaanite language, you dig that they call Hebrew language now, but it's just the Canaanite language. When that sign in that Canaanite language for beast, it's other words that the translator could have picked. They didn't. They chose to put beast. That word beast don't mean nothing but a living creature. And that term they're using for field, that term means country. That term or that signal or that sign means, or the lettering I'm talking about in Canaanite. That word also means battlefield. It means country. It doesn't just mean field, but the white boys is picking this and that on purpose. Because, see, you have to well, let's just make it plain. They're tricksters. So they have two different ways they disseminate this information. And we, at this point, we have figured it out. It's something called the right path, and it's something called the left-hand path. The right path is what the mischief makers do when they teach it to you and I in an orthodox kind of way. That's how they teach Reverend Ripden and them. It's all orthodox. I don't care what Semite religion it is, if it's Judaism, if it's Islam, if it's Christianity, they all are taught from a right-hand path. Then there's something called the left-hand path. This is where the information goes into the esoteric. And then it goes so far, it gets to the occult. The occult is when you take esoteric information and you surround it with symbolism. Not only do you know the hidden meaning, you know the hidden meaning and you know the symbol of it. It's something called Satanism. Satanism is when you take the esoteric and then you take the occult and you take these hidden meanings and you take the symbolism and you kind of put it in a way where it will scare away those that are not initiated to read that. The symbols will scare you away. You see Baphomet, you see Baphomet, which is nobody but Pan, and they'll show you some 6-point stars and some 5-point stars, and they'll spook it up for you. So you see, look, because see, we had a man named Bobby Hemmett. He taught us how this worked. It would scare away those that were already taught on the orthodox path. So if they see that book with Pan on it, and then they put bootleggers out there like Alex Crowley and all these are, you know, those bootleggers, they're bootleggers. Like they ain't nothing deep about what they got to say. They make them the face of left-hand path and occult and Satanism, part of the information to scare you away. But we know, beloved, when you have a knowledge of self, it is no ghouls and goblins and demons and nothing like that. But with that being said, I know that, but that kind of information or symbolism we talking about when you get deep into that Satanism side, it would even kind of keep me away. But Bobby was right. They made it that way to do that, but that's where the real information is at. Maybe all that is a different story for a different day. I'm just saying all that to say this. See, when the white boys, the 47 white boys will start translating stuff, they're doing it on purpose because they want to keep that hidden meaning hidden. So now everything is a mystery. It's no problem. You have to go to the mystery schools to decode what they're talking about, but they not sending Hambone and Pochop and Minister Donkey Rider that love all this stuff in the East. He praying 5 times a day. They're not going to those schools. Does that make sense? All right. because I just feel like we had to just spend some time to talk about an allegory. It's complex. It's very complex, but it's hidden in a story. It's a real world event though, but they're going to kick it to you a certain kind of way. Because today, like, look, beloved, we're going to tap into like 3 different allegories. We're talking about genetics. We're talking about cloning. If we just had a real scientific conversation about what cloning is, it'd be, if this is not our discipline of learning, we ain't gonna get it. So they can tell us the story of how cloning work. They're cloning mice, they're cloning people, they're cloning animals. They have to put it in a fictional kind of way. And when your education level reaches to that of that discipline, now you can understand it. But they're gonna give you the truth, the real world event. They're gonna just give it to you in a hidden meaning, which is an allegory. It's important that we talk about that, because we're going to talk about selective breeding today. We're going to go to a story in the Jew book, Genesis 30, where it's talking about some high-powered genetics that's going to be in the play. I mean, they working it. Jacob is working it. So we're not going to just look at it today through the lens of the modern day mischief maker with a white lab coat on. We're going to take it all the way back. We're going to put that YAKUB spin on it. We're going to put that YAHWEH spin on it. We're going to put that Jacob spin on it. We're going to decode exactly what went down, beloved, when we read The Message to the Black Man, page 101. I don't know, your book may be different because you may have a different version where it talks about the making of devils. Or in Genesis 2, where it talks about the making of Adam. Or like the allegory we're going to go over today, which is in Genesis chapter 30, where it's talking about the trickster, the supplanter, where it talks about Jacob. He's mating the sheep, and the sheep literally changed their colors, right? All right, so when we take a look at that story in Genesis chapter 30, or we look at the story of YAKUB, the making of devils, or we look at, again, the story in Genesis chapter 2 when Yahweh made Adam, when we hear these stories, do we think it was magic? Do we think, was it a miracle? I want you to, because this is an allegory. YAKUB wasn't real. I don't want nobody to go get The Message to the Black Man and they looking at the chapter, The Making of Devils, and they think it was a real man named YAKUB. He was in the island of Patmos, a Pelon, and he, no. It's an allegory. When we read Genesis 2, nobody poured no little dust off the ground, and Eve is made from a rib and all of this. So there is no Hebrew word for rib. It doesn't even exist. It's an allegory. It's symbolism from the time that Adam even passed away, 930. That means something. In symbolism, look, how old was Eve when she died? Nobody know. It's not that important. It's just, it doesn't exist. It's just part of the allegory. It's not for you to really think two people live to be that long and all of this old kind of stuff. No. When your education level get to the degree that it need to be on to understand that, then you would get it on a scientific level. But because we are not there as a community, as a culture, we speak and we go over the allegories until we see scientifically, oh, this is what really happened. You dig what I'm saying? So when we go over this story about Jacob doing what he did to change the colors of the sheep, Jacob is dropping some high-level biological science thousands of years before they even knew what DNA was. That's why the Jew make it plain when he talks about the Elohim. The Elohim came in the form of a man. Abraham sat down and ate with an Elohim, and he cooked him some meat. Pause. But that's in the story. Abraham, he seen his maker Yahweh coming from afar off with two other men. This is the Elohim species. There's three of them. They had a meeting in the tent. They sat down. They ate something. Had something to eat, the whole nine. But listen, this is what's part of this, that story. Abraham sees Yahweh coming. The day is kind of hot, so they sat underneath like the tree or whatever. Abraham gave him something to wash his feet. But before they even came in contact with each other, the story say Abraham hollered to his wife and say, hey, start making this, that, and the third. He included meat into the meal they was going to have. How did he know his maker even ate meat? Now you got to go all the way back to the Genesis 2 man, where they making sacrifices, and he took the sacrifice of the one that brought him the meat. What you think is going on with these sacrifices when in some passages it's saying it's a sweet smell to Yahweh? Beloved, you a meat eater today. It's a sweet smell to you. When you go over your cousin's house, or you go over mama's house, or granddaddy in them house, or your uncle's house, and you pull up and they got the grill going on in the back, and you can smell the meat cooking from the front. It's a sweet smell to you. This is how. So, in other words, the Jew is giving you the Elohim as a species that look like the humans, but they are advanced intellectually and through technology, through science, through every area of activity. They are higher than the regular man is. They got the knowledge and wisdom, understanding on a level that we currently, at this point in time, we don't have. So the man, we were made to look like the Elohim. We don't even know what a real man looked like. The human beings were not made in the image of a man. The Elohim agreed, the pantheon agreed, the powerful ones agreed to make man in their image and in their likeness, which again means man as a species had to have his own look, had to have his own behavior pattern or characteristics, but we'll never know because a man is made in the image of Elohim. Right? All right, let's look at the scene what Jacob was doing, because I don't want to get too far off what we're going to talk about today. And we're just going to go over the scene. We ain't going to do it like rib dinner. I ain't got a lot of verses for y'all. It's in the story. It's in there. You dig? It's I can only tell you what's in the book. How about that? But look, if you read the text, this is Genesis chapter 30. The cliff notes of the story is this. Jacob is working for his father-in-law, Laban, right? Jacob is a trickster. Jacob is a supplanter. That's somebody that swap out something for something else. You dig what I'm saying? And beloved, the black man and the black woman in the hills of North America, in the territory that we call the United Snakes, we are actually trapped into the house of Jacob, meaning we are trapped into the house of a trickster. You dig? I can go into that. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. Jacob, again, his name means trickster. It's in his blood, though. His mama is a trickster. Him and his mama got together, cooked up a story to trick the daddy. You can see Jacob is a shrewd businessman. He did some play to kind of trick his brother out of his own birthright. And now you see him going into his mother's line, and his uncle got that same. So these people got that trickster spirit. This is a allegory, but we just have to remember now, an allegory it's a real world event. It's just told in a story or fiction. I'm just pointing this out so you can see the characteristics of these people that you are slobbing at the mouth to be like, and you want to just prove all your loyalty to them and to their God, and when you die you can't wait to go to heaven. Well, this is what them people is saying about their own folks and their own allegory. Laban is trying to play him, is what they're saying. They make a deal. So the trickster say, or Jacob say, look, let me go through your flock, and I'll take all the speckled and the spotted and the dark colored sheep and the goats, and those would be my wages. This is what Jacob is saying to his uncle. Now, while he's saying that, he got a trick in mind, because that's just their nature. Now, Laban thinks he's getting a steal because, see, the vast majority of the sheep, they pure white. See, in the sheep genetics, beloved, the white is the dominant trait. So Laban agrees because he got a trick up his sleeve. It's just they family, just in their nature. He gonna do this as far as his position on the deal. We talking Laban. He secretly removes all the spotted and the stripped animals, and he hides them like it's a 3-day away journey. He's gonna hide them all the way up somewhere. So he gonna leave his nephew, which is also a trickster, with nothing but a solid colored flock. Laban thought he had him boxed in. Now this is something I just got to point out that's in this story. See, in sheep genetics, the white gene is the dominant gene. The white gene is the dominant trait. It's the dominant. You dig what I mean? But you know, Laban, he playing checkers. In this situation, Jacob is playing chess because, see, Jacob knew something about the laws of nature. He knew something about the laws of Yahweh. He knew something about the laws of YAKUB that Laban didn't understand. Jacob was about to run a masterclass of genetic engineering on his uncle, right? Okay, so this is how the story goes along. After they make the deal, right? The story finna get a little crazy, but this is where a lot of people get confused at, right? The text say Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar and almond and plane trees, and he peeled stripes of bark off them so they can do what? So you can see the white streaks in them. He's finna run a play. You underdig? He's peeling the strips of bark, you know, and the strips are striking. It has white streaks. You dig? Then he placed these strip branches right in front of the watering troughs where the flocks come. The sheep and the goats, they come and they have something to drink. And since these animals, according to this allegory, they naturally mated when they came to the water, they made it right in front of these stripped sticks, these striped sticks. This is where they mate in front of. You dig? Okay, now the story go along to say this is what happened. These sheep and these goats start giving birth to the striped and speckled and spotted offspring. Now, I'm going to just stop. This, beloved, is an allegory. This is an allegory. An allegory is, it's like a real world event, but they tell it to you in like in a fictional story kind of way. They give you like a metaphor because it's complex. And culturally, our community, to be in particular, scientifically, we couldn't understand what this would mean if it were just told plain by the supposed writer who's Moses. We just won't get it. Like, what is he talking? If we give us a real scientific meaning of what happened. So they just give it to you in the story, right? I say this, beloved, to that. You know, in the Jewish biblical text, beloved, trees and beasts are used to describe people. The text may say tree, it ain't talking about no trees. The text may say beast, they ain't really talking about no beasts. They're talking about people for real, for real. If you take a look at Psalms 37:35, it's a tree in the passage, but it ain't no, the tree is really used to describe wicked people. But just look at how the Jew play it, because it's signs, symbols, and allegory, how he talk, how he write everything down, and how it was translated by King James, right? And this British book was put together by, or translated, quote unquote, by 47 white boys that come out the British Empire. Babylon was called a great tree. It's in the book. Assyria was called a cedar tree. Is this nation of people trees with legs and arms? No, it's symbolism. Israel is called an olive tree. You see them folks, is they really an olive tree? I know some of y'all think y'all Israel today. I'm talking about when you come out of that. Is they an olive tree? No, it's just a figure of speech. Well, let me say it this way. Israel is an olive tree when they doing everything that they supposed to do, what Yahweh tell them to do. But when they kind of acting hard-headed, sometimes they are represented as a fig tree. Well, because they ain't acting right. But I'm just showing you how the Jew right. You know, you go to Ezekiel, Egypt, Kemet is called one of the finest well-watered trees that was in the garden of God. Now you missed that because they got you thinking this Garden of Eden. You think about like a real literal garden. It's just allegory. That tree that's well watered in the garden of God, the Kemetic tree, the Egyptian tree, that's talking about a people. You know what I'm saying? They do the same thing with the term beast. Reverend Rip Dinner, he had preached about end times, and he talks about the mark of the beast. It's not no beast out of no finna come mark somebody for real. The beast is a fancy or symbolic word for government, a wicked government, powerful government. It's a beast. This represents like a powerful but wicked nation, because how the book is also written, everything that is non-Israelite is wicked. I don't care what it is. And it's always about isolation. Look, check this out. The same story is written a bunch of different ways. The Garden of Eden is a place of isolation where the Adamites is at, but the people that was around the Adamites was the pre-Adamites. But this is the beast of the field concept. See, this is the beast of the field, and then Adam gets his own. It's always a level of isolation. Eden was the isolated place in the garden, in the whole land, in the whole territory, in the whole country, in the whole battlefield. It's an isolated place. That's Israel today is an isolated place, and it's surrounded by the enemy. So today, the terminology would be Jew and Gentile. Gentile just mean Goy, all non-Israelite nations. That's the kind of like the game they play. In the mind of a Jew, is only two kind of people that lives. It's a Jew and a non-Jew. He's a chosen people, you not. So he talks in symbolism. When he has a follower that is dedicated, he called this person the sheep. When he has a follower that is not so dedicated, when the follower is a bad follower, he calls them goats. When the Jews say, okay, these are wolves, he's not complimenting you. He's not. The wolves represent a greedy person. This is, you get the term, the wolf in sheep clothing. This represents, again, a greedy person. A fox is like a sneaky person. You know, when you read and you see, okay, these people, they're people. But in symbolism now, you see the term dog being used to represent an unbeliever. You see pig, you see the dove descended down, and all these animals is what I'm saying, beloved, is symbols of something. This is how this man talk. All right, when you go back and you take a look at that story and you see that trickster, well, he taking fresh branches from the poplar and the almond and the plane trees, and he peeled strips of bark off them so they had the white streaks. He running the play, but it's not no he ain't genetically splicing up no trees for real. No, it's this, beloved, in concept is talking about people. It's all allegory. It's the same story. It's the YAHWEH and Adam story told a different way. It's the YAKUB story told a different way. Look, for centuries, people just thinking like, all right, because this is right-hand path. So, okay, it's just a folklore. And then right-hand path is kind of, it's all orthodox. So it's real. It just takes a little magic to make it happen. Then you start moving a little to the left. You start seeing where it's a myth. It's just like, man, if a pregnant sheep looks at something that's striped, the baby comes out striped. You're like, come on, that ain't real talk. That's not. But listen, it's in an allegory. It's a real world event. It's in the story. Now, today, beloved, modern science, see, it caught up to these ancient allegories. Modern science has caught up with the YAKUB story, with the YAHWEH story, with the Jacob story, beloved. It's running neck and neck. It's, beloved, it's running neck and neck. See, let's do genetics real quick. Remember when I said, okay, these sheeps, the white coat is the dominant gene in the sheep. It's the dominant gene. Well, just because a sheep looks pure white on the outside, it doesn't mean it isn't carrying the recessive genes for spots and stripes on the inside. Jacob, whether he knew this through divine revelation of YAHWEH, because YAHWEH did it too, or just, I don't know, Jacob was his own calculated genius. He's a master breeder. He knows how to manipulate the hidden traits that was in the sheep. He just knew how to do it. But look, on the surface, listen, because this is the same story we hear over the ages. Jacob, the sheep, is dominant white. The dominant gene is white. Jacob knew inside of the dominant sheep, that's white, it's other colors that's in there. And he manipulated the situation with what was inside of the sheep could come out and manifest as creatures that's living that did not look like the original. That ain't nothing different than the YAKUB story. That ain't nothing different than YAHWEH making the Adamite. That's the ruddy man. That means you look in the strong concordance yourself. The blood shows through the face. Now, I ain't the most intelligent man on the planet, right? As an original man, if we don't know nothing, we know this. Blood don't show through our face. It does not. That's the pale man. That's why we call him, Granddaddy and them used to call him the redneck. Now here go them rednecks. Because when we worked out in the field, we can just work out in the field. We can come back to the quarters. You can't tell the difference. When he went out to the field, we talking about the mischief maker. He had that shirt on to cover up the sun from hitting on his back. He had a little hat on, but that sun to beat on his neck. And his whole neck, it'll come discolored. It'll turn red. So he couldn't walk around and play like he was the most educated or high on the totem pole, kind of like mischief maker. He couldn't do that because they can look at his neck and say, oh, you like us. You one of the ones that's in the field like us. You couldn't play. See, but the owner and the masters of plantations, they never had a redneck because they were not in the sun. But the blood showed through the face. The blood showed through the skin. That's the pale man. In this concept, beloved, that's the Adamite. Adam was given Eve, two motherless beings, two beings that did not have a mother. So I asked this question before. How does this being, we talking Adam and Eve, that is made by Yahweh, how does these beings, how does a king and queen line come from them when they was made in the laboratory? They don't have a connection with a king and queen. Like, what is their concept of a king and queen? Look, I did you one better. You know, when you look at how the writers write, you dig? And then they say what? They say, when Eve was made, Adam says, well, this is blessed, something like flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, something like that. And then he said something that was key. He said, she is the mother of all living. This is how the writers wrote that. Now, let's stop. In Adam's concept, what is a mother? He don't have no mother. Does Yahweh have a mother? In Jew talk? No, Yahweh ain't even got no mother. So what is a mother? What does Adam mean when he says she's the mother of all living? What living was he talking about? Because again, I'm gonna point out two quick concepts about that. You see, motherhood would not have been in the realm of knowledge for an Adam, because Adam, there was no mothers around, right? If you just go along with the story, Yahweh didn't have no mother. Adam didn't have no mother. Eve didn't have no mother. Okay, Eve is made, and Adam gonna just jump up and say, well, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, the mother of all living. What is a mother in this concept? What is a mother? I want you to think about that, beloved. I want you to also think about this. They get some rules from their maker, Yahweh. They violate the rules. They are put out of the garden, right? Okay, they're put out of the garden. How does this people that is put out of a garden and they go through some hunter and gatherer stage and they go into the cave, how do they develop a concept of a king and queen? See, a royalty line, it just runs, it flows, it's never broken, it's always connected. This is why, based on concept, we talk about the Genesis 1 man. He is coming, he is the incarnate, he's coming from the gods and goddess, meaning in the earthly realm, that would transfer directly into a king and a queen. When you look at the original man and woman, when you go far back, we don't go so far back, we run into a cave. We always run back into some dynasty, some kingdom, says some king or some queen. How does that happen? Because you are incarnate. Well, how does the European, how does the mischief maker, the Caucasian, how does he have royalty in his line? He does not. They have a different kind of heart. They don't have a mother. A mother's love, a mother's touch, the warm feeling that you get as a human being from a mother. You listen to them in their own script. They tell you they don't come from no mother's line. It's not there. They tell you that the man was made first. The mother came later. They telling you that. You know, look, let me say it this way. Adam is saying Eve is the mother of all living. Is that right? Okay. That is not even a concept that would have been close to his realm of knowledge, because he never seen it. Look, a man that don't even know he's naked, maybe I should say it this way, like he's a common sort, he's a dumb, he don't know much, he doesn't even know he's naked. You think that kind of man know, oh, this is the mother? No, he don't know that. He didn't even know he was naked. Then when information was introduced to him and his eyes were open, the first thing he did was he covered himself with some fig leaves. This is the story, is that right? All right, his maker calls for him. This is Adam. He said, Adam, where art thou? He said, well, I hid myself because I was naked. He was lying. He wasn't even naked. He already found something to cover himself. So it's just showing you how he's going. Maybe all that is a different story for a different day. You know what I mean? How about that? Well, it's showing you like he's going into the nature of the man that he was made. We're talking about how the man was made and how he was made. That story, that real world event is hidden in allegory. He's not ancient. He don't go back thousands and thousands. He don't even talk like that. He knows he does not. 6,000 year old man. A 6,000 year old people. They were grafted, beloved, genetically to be the way that they are. And it's hid in allegory. When you look at the Jacob story, right? It kind of written like everything is happening in real time. He just a master breeder, and he just that kind of manipulation of genetics, that kind of manipulation of hidden traits, that pulling something from the inside and you're going to manifest it to the future descendants, what's going to look like this on the outside. That's a process of time. Right? Okay, so that brings us to this. That brings us to the science of epigenetics. This is a YAKUB mindset. This is a YAHWEH mindset. Because epigenetics is the study of how your behavior and your environment, it can change that effect of where your genes is supposed to work. Your genes is in your genetics, is in your traits to kind of like to be this height, for your hair to be this color. But you live in this kind of neighborhood, y'all eating this kind of food, y'all breathing in this kind of air. You know, the water is a little flintish, it's a little funny. You have a certain kind of gene or trait or genetic, I should say, but environmental factors. The diet may be off a little bit. You may be a little stressed. It can literally turn that gene that's supposed to kick on, it can turn it off. This is all epigenetics. Look, beloved, let me say it this way, right? Because I'm from the west side of Detroit, so we are familiar with something a little different when we start talking genetics, right? You know, even in the coat of a dog, in the coat of a canine, there's a science to how you get certain colors of pit bulls. Because the coat of the pit bull, it is controlled by hidden genes, right? Anybody in Detroit or Baltimore or Chicago, St. Louis, you know, these are cities that are heavily populated with the pit bull. When I went into the deep south, you see a few, but when you get to that Midwest, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Cleveland, it's like it's a different kind of, this is like this is the home of the pit bull. If you want that pit to have a specific kind of look, you got to understand how the traits get passed down. My baby brother, he got like two pits with they call them blue nose. He got the blue coats. They like silver gray, you know, got that silver, bright silver gray coat, that gray look. Everybody is chasing this kind of color, right? But when you see that silver gray look in the pit bull, that's coming from a diluted recessive gene. If both parents pass down that specific trait, and it'll wash it out until it looks kind of gray. This is how we breed the pit bull. You dig what I'm saying? We ain't no scientists now. You know, we ain't go to school for this. You dig? Because, you know, you know, when you in the neighborhood, right? You know, they got little fancy titles for you like, hey, man, that's a backyard breeder and this, that, and the third. But look, I'm just saying, we know how to breed out certain colors, certain types of pit bull. I mean, we know how to do a blue coat. We know how to do a red nose. So, beloved, let me stop and pivot and say this real quick. Everything that we're talking about today, it is for conversational purposes only. This is not for anybody to go out, get some pit bulls, and all of a sudden you finna be a master breeder all of a sudden, right? Because, you know, we finna start talking about the red nose and breeding a chocolate, what we call in the neighborhood. You dig? And look, this conversation is based on allegories. And what we're saying, beloved, is that allegories are nothing more but real world events that it is too complex to give the average person. They won't get it. But when your level of education rises, then you will grow out of this fictional kind of like metaphoric, you know, allegory, and you can see the reality for what it is, right? I just wanted to say that real quick before we start, because we're going to talk about some dogs a little more. The red-nosed pit bull and what we call that chocolate colored pit bull. This look happens on a whole different genetic track, right? You kind of have to manipulate those traits are just a little different, right? When a pup inherits a recessive brown gene on both sides, it can't be on just one side, it got to get this recessive brown gene on both sides. When you put that together, we breeding now, we breeding pit bulls. That recessive brown from mom and recessive brown from dad, it'll flip that color code to a black pigment. It'll be like a deep chocolate, right? It'll be like this copper colored across the fur. It's in the skin. It's even in the nose. This is breeding, you know, pit bulls like 101. This is inner city breeding, right? Now, here's the problem with this inner city breeding, because it gets faddish. And the problem when you start breeding animals, breeding dogs, and it's get faddish is that you're not really concerned about the dog's health anymore, right? So a lot of backyard breeders, right, they get greedy and they start tight inbreeding. So this is what happens when you start pairing up closely related dogs so you can lock in that blue coat. You don't want to just wait and just, you know, you can speed up the process just by start pushing incest on the dogs. So you can lock in this particular kind of like blue coat, or you can lock in that chocolate coat that we just talked about. You dig what I'm saying? Now, when you do that, beloved, in all transparency, now you rolling the dice. Because it's like, yo, you can get bad traits, bad genetics easy. Because we call it scatterbrain. Like, you breeding these pits, the blood is too thin now, is what we say in the neighborhood. And you can end up having some puppies, like, they look good on the outside. They got the flashy coat, you know, the color eyes that you wanted. Yeah, they got all of that. But now you start watching that this puppy is growing up. You know, it stands a little funny. It runs, it walks a little funny. The damn dog got bad hips because you bred is too. See, that you breed, it's a science to how you're supposed to do all this. When that blood get a little too thin, the hips can be bad. Now you can't even run the dog so far. You can't even walk the dog so far because the dog got a bad heart. We're not considering that when we're making the fad. You dig what I'm saying? And most importantly now, this is what you deal with in the neighborhood. See, that blood is so close, so inbred, that the pit bull got scatterbrains, what we call. The temperament is off. The temperament is real sketchy. It's almost like the dog is bipolar, right? See, this is, this is the byproduct of what happens when you start doing this genetic pushing and pulling so you can get a certain kind of breed that you want. All right, now let's come out of that and let's go back into the allegory. See, Jacob was using biochemistry. This is what, this is what YAKUB was doing on the high level of intellect. This is what YAHWEH was doing on the high level of intellect. See, this is the scientific mind of a master grafter or a master breeder. He understood, we talking Jacob, in allegory, how to isolate a trait, manipulate the environment, and force biology to do exactly what he wanted it to do. Now I want you to stop and think about that. That's the same story of YAKUB. That's the same story of YAHWEH. All YAKUB did in allegory was he isolated the genes. He isolated the traits. That's what the whole story about, going to Patmos or Pelon and all. Just an allegory, but it's just isolation in that. Once he isolated the genes and the traits, he manipulated the environment. Then he forced the biology to do exactly what he wanted it to do. That's the same thing that YAHWEH did. See, it's the isolation process with the Adam. He looked, we talking YAHWEH, he looked amongst the beasts of the field. He didn't see no suitable helpmeet for Adam. You think beasts of the field, they kind of trained you because you got the orthodox view. You think that just mean like some other animals. No, YAHWEH ain't looking to pair that man up with no animals. This is allegory. He went into the man genetically and he made a helpmate for Adam that came from him. Right? Now, we, beloved, are taught that this is the so-called white man and woman that was being made. We talking to Adamites. Not you. You're not weak bones, weak blood, and stale face. That's the term. That's what Caucasian is. Weak blood, weak bones, stale face. He was genetically produced this way. He was genetically made this way. Right? It's nothing different than dig, because that Jacob story, beloved, it got a lot in it. You underdig? That Jacob story got a lot in it, but it's the same old story that we heard in the YAKUB story. It's the same old story that we heard in the YAHWEH story. In science, right? Dig this. There's something called the albino ferrets. You look it up. There's something called the Hartley guinea pigs. You look it up. And there's also something called the New Zealand white rabbits. They're not really from New Zealand, but that's just the terminology that's used for these particular species of beings. You know, these animals, beloved, the scientists made these animals, bred these animals genetically white on purpose. It wasn't an accident. It was a highly strategic move for early science to do this for two main reasons. Now, we're going to go over two main reasons. When you see a all-white species that is bred that way, rabbit, pig, ferret, or mice, right? No melanin is like, it's easier for these scientists, I can imagine, to see like what's going on in these creatures, what's going on in these species, because they're white now. There's no melanin in these ferrets. There's no melanin in these pigs. There's no melanin in these rabbits. There's no melanin in these mice. So when an animal's skin is like paper white, any kind of inflammation, any kind of soreness, any kind of reaction, any kind of tumor, it sticks out like a sore thumb. You can see it is white. You know, beloved, dig this. You know, you go way back into the 90s and they was teaching sexual education back then. You know, the original man and woman, you know, we come in 4 shades, you know, dark skin, brown skin, light brown, we come in so many different shades, but we say in the village 4 shades, right? When something is going on medically with our people, it takes a little longer for it to show because the blood is a little stronger, the immune system is a little stronger, the bone density, everything is a little bit more stronger in the original man and woman. I'm just saying this is what it is. So much so that they had like going back to sexual education, we used to go back in school, you know, we used to take this little class back in school and it show you certain STI infections. And we used to call it cooties back in the day. Or we used to call it herpes. You dig? It's a attack of what's going on the inside on the skin. You could hardly see that in an original man and woman. You couldn't see an outbreak like that. Like these cold sores and all of that. You couldn't see it. But when you look at the Caucasian man, the mischief maker, you can see it. You can see any kind of breakout, any kind of reaction, any kind of anything because they are pale white. They don't have levels to whiteness. They just a Caucasian. Weak blood, weak bones, stale face. They don't come in different shades like we do. It's different. So what you begin to see scientifically now is it's a level of uniformity when you start dealing with the albino ferrets and the Hartley guinea pigs and the New Zealand white rabbits and the mice you see in these labs when you do your research. See, it's the clone effect now. For science, and I imagine now, experts like they can deal with their findings a little different because something seems more reliable. There are researchers in there, but researchers, they all need their test subjects to be as genetically identical as possible. So they don't have to worry about no wild cards. Nothing can't come out of a trick bag on them. They all are just white. So to pull this off, breeders use, this is scientific now, breeders will use heavy inbreeding. They would take, you know, this brother and mate this brother with this sister, you know, and they do this, they mate siblings for generations. They're trying to breed out the melanin and breed in this recessive gene, which is the so-called white gene. So it's something in the original man and woman, and it's called they call it albinism. You dig what I'm saying? And in all of us that are original people, it is a gene, it is a albinism trait that is in us. That albinism gene or trait, though, beloved, to scientists and to researchers, that is a visual receipt that our line is to the last stage. When you see an albus person with that blonde hair, with that white skin, with those recessive eyes, every scientist, even you know that is the last stage that original man can go to shade-wise, right? Once you start breeding a albino person with another albino person, that next stage that comes out of that union is a so-called pure white person. It's fully weak bones, weak blood, stale face. Now, on a scientific level, breeders, scientists knew they were locked in and they can successfully preserve this new white pure line, but they have to isolate it now because you can't let this end of genetics start procreating with any like original people because it'll throw off the genetic line. They had to start all over again. All right. Now, this is something I gotta I gotta ask you. See, when we was being raised in the church house, beloved, we all had questions. I know I did. And one of my questions was, okay, well, if Adam and Eve is having kids, and these children that they're having is getting married and getting spouses and all that, and they having kids, who are they having kids with? Now, Reverend Rib Dinner, he can talk himself out of a lot of trick bags, but this is one he didn't talk himself out of. He said, well, the brothers and sisters was going along with each other. Is that right? This is what we were taught early, like these group of people, beloved, they were products of incest. When we see or we read an allegory about Cain getting a wife, Cain didn't go get no pre-Adamite. Cain was banging and sleeping with his sister. They was marrying each other. This is very interesting about the Adamite. Because when you look at some of these powerful kingdoms that they got in the world today, they still kind of do that. They haven't turned that loose, beloved. I was looking at a story we talked about, I don't know how many years ago on this platform, about how it was Europeans that brothers and sisters in Europe was marrying each other. And then they was having children with each other. Okay, we see that in the modern times. When the Ptolemies back in Kemet, when they took over ancient Egypt and they start, putting their stamp down, putting their flag down, they try to make it seem like, oh, we were just doing what the Egyptians was doing because the Egyptians, brothers and sisters, were sleeping with each other. And beloved, to that, we'd say this. That is the original man in language talk. We speak this way. Hey, that's my sister, that's my brother. That's not really my sister. That's not really my brother. This is in the culture. We are brothers and sisters based on the culture of how we act. We're not literal brothers and sisters. When the Ptolemies took over, they was literal brothers and sisters. So there's two different lines when they start talking about the greatness of Kemet. There's the line of the original man and woman, and then there's the line when the foreigners took over and they sat in the seat of power and they brought their ways in with them. And that was one of their ways. You just look at a lot of these Rothschild families, these Bilderberg families, these the Spanish and the Austrian Habsburgs. The Habsburgs is a powerful European family. But for nearly 200 some years, the family tree, they was mixing. You get the uncle and the niece, and then the first cousins is getting married. Listen now, listen, I'm showing you something. Beloved, inbreeding, when you start getting into Europe, that number get high, beloved. We talking reality now. We can see the Habsburgs in reality have this practice, and then this is the Austrian branch now. But you just look at their dynasties and their kingdoms. It's family. Okay, now let's come out of that. Let's come into the Jew book that y'all like so much, y'all love so much, y'all want to die and go to Jew heaven and all of that. See, allegory is like it's a real world event, but they're giving it to you in a fictional story. You dig? Abraham, according to this Jew legend, and I forget which parent, but I think Abraham and his wife, they had the same dad, different moms, something like that. Then you go from Abraham, then you go down to Isaac. Well, we all know Isaac jumped up and married his cousin. Then you go from Isaac to Jacob. We know Jacob was slobbing at the mouth. He was willing to work 7 years for his uncle to get one of his cousins. They switcheroo, gave him the wrong one. He worked 7 more to get the other one. So it's like they're showing you them. When you see this kind of inbreeding, they're trying to maintain an identity on the exterior, not the interior. People are just people. Exterior, they're trying to protect a genetic line. They're trying to protect an Adamite line. So when you kind of see the concept a certain kind of way, you look at everything different. You look at the Adam and Eve story different. You look at the Noah's story different. Marrying and giving into marriage, it was a no-no. Listen, marrying and giving into marriage was a no-no. So we have to wash away this kind of mixing, and we got to come back with Noah having a pure line. So they got these Jewish texts that talk about Noah was an albino or something. That was a fancy way of saying he was a white man. Now, in this concept, you think this white man, we talking Noah, he jumped up and he had 3 sons and they all different races? No, they don't even give you a wife for Noah. So this how you know it's just an allegory. Now they have to take one of the sons and then they have to figure out a way to make them another kind of people, because they're going to use that one son, which is generally Ham, to throw on the pre-Adamites, to throw on the original people, to say, okay, this is who they came from. But it's just an allegory. They're trying to protect a particular line. Look, when you look at the Jacob story, you just read it. He didn't just stop there. The text says Jacob only put the branches in the water when the strongest animals were mating. Listen, this is a concept, beloved, but this is on the YAHWEH level now. This is on the YAKUB level now. Jacob only put the branches in the water when the strongest animals were mating. When the weak ones came around, he pulled them sticks out. So the weak ones went to Laban, and the strong, genetically modified, speckled ones belonged to him. Jacob knew then he selectively bred an entirely new elite flock out of thin air. He said, I mean, like, you read that text, he essentially just cloned the strongest traits. And that listen, when he bred out, I ain't gonna say he bred out a new Negro. When he bred out a new flock, right? He essentially cloned the strongest traits and multiplied his wealth, while the person that was over him wasn't paying that much attention. That's Laban. We can give you another concept for that, but we won't do it today. So, we get this kind of information. Okay, so what do we do with all that? We just kicking it, but what do we do with all that? Well, beloved, we do this. Whether you're looking at this as YAHWEH is just stepping in to bless Jacob, or this is the scientific mind of YAKUB mastering the physical realm, the lessons is the same. The lessons are the same, beloved. There are people in this physical plane that have always been the masters of science and biology and agriculture. The elements of the earth, beloved, are tools for those who have the knowledge to use them. It is a plan in place, and we said this 1,000 times. It is to take the original man and woman mind off of the planet and the laws that govern the planet, and put your mind in the sky somewhere. Keep your mind in Arab heaven somewhere. Keep your mind in Jew heaven somewhere, So you're not even looking at the planet no more. This keeps them in power, and this keep you as just a consumer now. All you can be now is a consumer. All you can be now is a lackey. Damn, Adam used to be the dust of the ground. Now you the American Negro is the dust of the ground now. And you know why that bothers many of us with knowledge of self? Because we know historically and genetically and spiritually, it was us that were the creators and the architects on this planet. And beloved, we'll leave it there. Peace and black power to your family. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys for hanging out. Beloved, this is indeed Real Black Conscious Fun Podcast. Hey man, it's your brother V, man. I'm gonna get it with you guys later. Peace, peace, beloved, and more peace.
Now to a CBS News New York investigation. When a Long Island man lost his beloved dog, he decided to clone her. With thousands of dollars, you could do the same, but should you? Investigative reporter Masa Saidi joins us now. And Masa, you've been looking into the regulations on this and also some other factors.
Yeah, that's right, Christine. So right now in the U.S., there's only one company that's cloning pets commercially. They say that the clone will look the same, but the big question tonight, will it be the same?
She had a special thing about her that, touched my heart.
In 2006, at a precinct in Queens, the scruffy dog was abandoned. Then Officer John Mendola named her Princess and took her home.
She was a stray. They were a little special. It's like they're appreciated, like they know, that you tried to help them.
She comforted Mendola's dad as he battled cancer.
Are you my beautiful little girl?
Years later, Princess got sick too.
She just didn't want to leave me. Just kept telling her, I love you. I always will, and it's okay.
But he wasn't okay. So the following year at LaGuardia Airport,
Yeah.
Mendola got a special delivery. Princess Jasmine and Princess Ariel.
Hi, girls.
Genetic copy of the original princess.
Mendola paid $1,600 for genetic preservation. Before Princess died, the vet collected a piece of her skin and sent that live tissue to a company in Cedar Park, Texas. Viagen Pets froze Princess's cells until Mendola decided to clone her.
I paid $40,000 for this because it was a special.
How did you save up the money to do this?
Several years.
He sold his car and slashed his spending.
Worth every penny?
Worth every penny. Worth every penny.
It does seem a little crazy.
The Animal Care Center's Katie Hansen is against pet cloning. She showed us crate after crate. Dozens of dogs in the city waiting for a home. Hansen wants people to adopt. She's also concerned that cloning, around since 1996, puts other animals in distress.
Dolly, a 7-month-old lamb, is the first clone to be created from another adult.
Decades after Dolly, cloning remains controversial. First, an egg is taken from a donor. Its nucleus replaced with one frozen cell from your pet. The embryo starts in a dish, then gets transferred to a surrogate.
There's sort of an ethical dilemma to that, too, because then you have to impregnate another dog.
How many pregnancies do they have?
So the surrogates are limited to being surrogates only 2 times.
Viagen Pets' Melaine Rodriguez started as a lab tech. She says now on average it takes several transfers to produce a clone, not hundreds like before.
We do want the surrogate mothers, all the animals involved, to be happy and healthy and well taken care of. And they are.
The USDA is charged with regulation. CBS News New York pulled available inspection reports and found since 2019, Viagen Pets has complied with all animal welfare rules. Mendola says he visited the facility before cloning Princess.
I feel like it's her, but, is it? Yeah, it probably is.
The stray he loved multiplied.
I don't know what's happening. They love their bag.
For the first time since that day at the airport.
It's not just the bag. This is the bag that they came home with, that they came back to me with, right?
Masa, were you able to find out if the clone behaves the same as the original pet?
So Mandola says that they do. They move the same. They kiss him the same. We tried to show you some of that video right in the package there. But the environment does play a role, so it's possible that the clone will behave differently.
Okay, but I noticed he got 2 dogs.
Yes. So 70% of people that clone an animal will get more than one, so be ready for that.
Oh, my goodness. How many pets has this particular company cloned?
So this is the only company doing this in the U.S. right now, and they have cloned 1,000 dogs and cats since 2015. Most of their business is genetic preservation, and that is something that you have to do before your dog dies.
Science, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Very much.
Masa, thank you for that.
Thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Your opinion of what you just heard is important to the platform. So yes, beloved, your comments are the engine and fuel to the machine. Stay blessed and have a powerful day.